Hey, welcome back to the Invent Academy. My name is Radu, and today I'll be showing you some really cool tricks in OnShape. Hopefully by now, Maria and Manali will have showed you how to create your own account on OnShape, as well as some very basic tips and tricks on how to create a file and how to do some very basic operations. This video picks up on there and then lets you know the in-depth tricks on how to use 2D drawing tools. 2D means a drawing which is in a plane just like you're drawing in your notebook, for example. I have already created this document and I'll click on it to open. Sketching, as you can imagine, can only happen on a plane, which means that, for example, you're not able to sketch on the surface of a sphere. It has to be a flat plane, just like a wall or a road. OnShape automatically creates 3 planes when you open a new document: the front plane, top plane, and the right plane. We will start by creating a sketch or a drawing, a 2D drawing on the top plane. I will move on to the top plane, I will right-click, and I will say New Sketch. The page is showing me, this window right here is showing me that I am currently in the sketch edit mode. It is really important to make sure you're in the sketch edit mode, and it will show you you're sketching on the top plane. I will now press on the view cube on the top side so that we can look right at our sketch plane so we can start drawing. One of the very first things you learn when you start drawing in school is how to draw a straight line. OnShape is great at drawing straight lines. You can select a point to be the beginning of your line, and then when you click again, you'll end up creating the line. At that point, OnShape will keep the line creation tool active, which means that if you move your mouse and click again, you can create as many lines as you want. For now, let's create a simple figure with lines, thus closing the loop. You will see that OnShape, whenever it has a full enclosed contour, such as this one, it will turn it into a shade of gray. This is the line figure. Now, we can also create rectangles. Rectangles can either be created with the corner restraint or with the center. Let's start with the corner rectangle. With the corner rectangle, you first click to select the top right corner of the rectangle and then the bottom left corner of the rectangle. If you use the center point rectangle, you can first choose the center of the rectangle and then you place one of the corners of the rectangle. Both of these ways are great ways to build easy rectangles. The next thing is circles, and we all know just how frustrating it can be to draw a circle. However, OnShape creates the perfect circle very easily. Click on Center Point Circle. Just like the center point rectangle, the center point circle lets you select a point as the center of the circle, and then as you move your cursor outwards, you'll see that your circle grows. This is how easy it is to create circles in OnShape. Another feature is the 3-point arc. There's also other options to this. However, I recommend that you explore this on your own. Likewise, we have the polygon feature. Polygons are geometric features which have the same side length. The way creating polygons works in OnShape is you select the center and then you select an outer point, like this. Then, OnShape, by sliding your cursor to the left or to the right, gives you the possibility to change the number of sides, which is exactly what a polygon is. So, for example, when it's set to 4, you create a polygon with 4 equal sides, or a square. When it's set to 3, there you have your equilateral triangle. I'll set mine to be an equilateral triangle. Splines, once again, are very useful curved lines. If you want to create stuff that you grip on as a person, splines are very useful. I do recommend that you check this out by yourself. And finally, we have points. Points are very important when you want to create things. You want to create a scaffold. When you want to create, you will see this later, when you want to create, for example, points and add things to them later. They're very, very useful. Text is a very easy way to add text to your program. Let's say Invent Academy, for example. Perfect. And there it is, Invent Academy. You will see it has some nice volume, which will be very useful later on in our program. Next, we have the sketch fillet. Sketch fillets are very interesting for the following reason. I will add some, and then hopefully you will notice what it is that they do. Do you see that right now the edge of this very rugged shape is rounded? This is exactly what a fillet is. When we work as engineers, we try to create objects that obviously do not cut the user's hands, for example. And fillets are a great way to do that. Next, we have the trim, extend, and split options, which are extremely useful. For example, let's look at this rectangle over here, and let's say I only need its top side, its left side, and its right side. However, I do not need the bottom. If I go ahead and select the trim feature, I can hold down and I can run over the line, thus cutting the line. Oh, no, sorry. Did I not cut the line? How does this work? Let me double check. There we go. I'm sorry. My computer is a bit laggy. Extend works in a similar way. However, for example, let's say we have a line here that goes from down here to over here. I can press escape to stop creating lines, and then I can go ahead and select the extend feature. This feature will extend my current line to the next feature underneath or on top of it, or to its left or right. So, for example, if I click on this line, what do you think will happen? Exactly. It gives me the option to extend the line vertically downwards onto the line I just created. Next, we have some other important engineering applications, such as the offset and the slot tools. However, they are a bit more specialized, and in case you want to check them out, I recommend you do it on your own. Over here, we have the mirror function, which, once again, is very interesting. With the mirror, what happens? You create a line, and then whatever is on one side of the line is being doubled. OnShape creates its symmetric about the line you selected. So, for example, if I select this line here, oops, sorry, set that again, perfect. Click on the line, there we go. And then it tells me, select entities to be mirrored. What entity do I want to mirror? Let's say I want to mirror this rectangle about my line. Therefore, I will select all of the components of the rectangle, and as you see, as I'm pressing on them, OnShape is slowly creating one by one. Next, we have the mirror. After the mirror, we have the patterns. The way pattern works is a more specialized way to do mirroring. For example, let's say you need a lot of circles, but you don't want to create them all one by one. You want to use a pattern feature. Therefore, you're able to select the geometry you want to repeat, and pattern does it for you. For example, it can create a lot of circles, one next to the other, in whichever direction you decide to create them. I do recommend that you check this out by hand. The last thing I will discuss with you in this tutorial is dimensioning and constraints. These are extremely important because very few things in engineering have no dimensions. When we build things because we want them to be a specific size and we want them to serve a specific purpose. For that reason, I'm going to select the dimension tool here and start by dimensioning a simple line. For example, when I click on this line, it creates this feature which shows me its current length, and as I move my mouse, it lets me move it upside down. Once I click, it will allow me to edit it. You can see that this is right now set to 2.39 inches. I can set this, for example, to be 2.7 inches because let's say this is what I need it to be. And you will see that this feature, as well as the mirrored feature, which if you remember is identical to it, both now have a length of 2.7 inches. Let's create another one. Let's create another dimension. This time I will dimension this line. However, I know that this one, instead of being in inches, I need it to be in centimeters. Can OnShape do centimeters? Of course it can. So, for example, I can type 2 here, space, and then say centimeters. Press enter, and there you go. Even though it converted it to inches, 0.787 inches, it is exactly equal to 2 centimeters. Very interestingly though, you're not limited to creating dimensions only for straight line. For example, if I want the dimension between this point here and this point here to be something, I can click on them, create my dialog box, and then I'll set this to be 4 inches, and then press enter. And there you go. It moves your point 4 inches to the left. Dimensions work for angles as well as lengths. So, for example, if I want the angle between these two lines to be a specific thing, I first click on one line. I'm given the option to select its length. I do not want that. And then, instead of pressing on something else, I press on the second line. There we go. And now OnShape lets me select the angle between the two lines. Let's set this to 100 degrees and press enter. Perfect. Dimensioning is a very, very important tool, and you have to master this if you want to use OnShape professionally or even to be successful within the Invent Academy. The last thing in this tutorial will be a very basic introduction to constraints. Constraints are very important to geometry. You will recognize a lot of these from your geometry classes, hopefully. Equal obviously gives you the option to select two lines or two angles that you want to have equal length. Let's press on it and see what it does. You now have to select equal is set. I will be selecting the first line, which let's say is this one over here, and then my second line, let's say it'll be this one. OnShape has right now created a constraint making the two lines equal. Whatever I do to one line will happen to the other line. Other very useful constraints are the perpendicular constraint. You remember that a perpendicular angle is an angle that measures 90 degrees. For example, let's set the angle between these two lines here to be 90 degrees. OnShape has just done that. If you want to check that there actually is a constraint, unselect the perpendicular constraint from the top menu and then hover your mouse over the line. You will see next to it, right now in the middle of the circle, the exact perpendicular icon that we selected earlier. This was for one line, and if you hover over the other line, you will see the exact same icon. Likewise, for this line over here, which we made equal to the line over here, you will see the rightmost symbol, the equal sign, shows that it is constrained to be equal to another line in the drawing. I suggest that you play around with a lot of these because they are very useful. For example, parallel lets you select two lines to become parallel in your drawing. Horizontal makes a line horizontal. Vertical does the very similar thing of creating a vertical line, while other constraints work in very, very intuitive ways, such as the midpoint, which allows you to create the middle point of a line. Once you're done with a sketch, you can, for example, choose to name it something. For example, you can press on here and say, to the introduction. And then you can press the green check mark. Right now, under your build tree, you will see that you have your 2D introduction sketch. And if you move around, you'll see that the sketch only exists in the top plane. If we look at the right plane, if you look at the bottom plane, you won't be able to see it. Now, if you want to edit a sketch once you've started it, it is very easy to do that. You can right-click on the sketch and say Edit. And once again, you'll see that you're able to edit the sketch with the Sketch dialog box open. You press on the top view so that you can start editing, and there you go. Or, for example, if you do not want to view the sketch, this is once again not deleting it, but you want to hide it, there's a very useful feature called Hide. At this point, it just disappears. If you right-click on it and you go again and hit Show, your sketch will show again. Finally, if you want to, for example, delete the sketch, you can press on Delete, and this will completely delete your sketch. However, I do not want to delete the sketch because I'll also be using it in our 3D tutorial. I do recommend that you play out with features in the 2D sketch window. It is really important that you understand how to use these. Obviously, you do not have to sketch only on the top plane. You can sketch on the front plane or on the right plane. This is it for now. I'm Radu, and I'll see you again in the 3D shape tutorial. Bye.